Y'all ready? It's time to talk ball with Spunky Spectrum. Let's ride! Ow. Woke up in the morning, coffee in my hand, another season about to start. I'm the fantasy man, scouting sleepers, crunching numbers late at night, building rosters that gon' shine under them lights. From rookie watch to big revenge, I see it all, stacking points while the league's watching me ball. Best ball drafting, no waivers, just pure skill. I'm taking shots, watch the whole league getting killed. Yeah, the grind don't stop, the picks stay high. When the money's on the line, I connect the dots. We're talking fantasy football, best ball drafting deep. Spunky Spectrum spinning, put a league to sleep. 15 grand on DraftKings, cashed it like a king. Now the whole damn country know I run this thing. Yeehaw, raise them up, another W in the books. Fantasy king, got the trophies and the looks. From the podcast mic to the big check in my hand, this is Spunky Spectrum boys, the fantasy man. This ball season.
Yo, Big D here, talking all things MLB Trade Deadline. A trade deadline of uncertainty and MLB's biggest trade deadline deals. We are 1 week officially from the Major League Baseball trade deadline, and I'm here to break down all the rumors and everything that could happen between now and August 3rd, because you know what? We're done with the World Cup, training camps, on the way, but the MLB trade deadline is one of my favorite times of the year. As the baseball guru and someone who cares deeply about the sport. Oh, I'm trying to make deals on fantasy, just kidding. But as the baseball guru, someone who cares deeply about the sport, I try and stay up to date with every rumor. It's almost like a hurricane, getting ready for a hurricane, figuring out where it's going to go, where they get your supplies. But with the MLB trade deadline, so much of this may be driven based on, who plays well, who doesn't play well, who's playing well, who gets a great streak or who doesn't get a great streak. And frankly, this MLB trade deadline could be the most uncertain deadline in recent times, because this deadline could be a lot of middle relievers, a lot of average starters, maybe guys who start a playoff game here or there, or there could be stars galore again in trade. And I'll get into that later on. But every year there's a non-waiver deadline, and August 3rd is that deadline. So deals have to be complete by August 3rd. I think it's at 6 o'clock. So funny thing is, I'm traveling back from Springfield, Illinois. So of course I'm bringing my laptop. So I might be breaking trades at an airport hangar, because who knows what's going to happen. But the big name is Tarik Skubal, obviously. The Detroit Tigers and Tarik Skubal are going to be the talk of baseball for the next week. Is Tarik Skubal going to be a Detroit Tiger, or is he going to be moved? Because Skubal, when healthy, is not only one of the best pitchers in baseball, he is the best pitcher in baseball. Anybody see his start against the Royals? Yeah, that looked like Tarik Skubal. Striking out 11 or 12 Royals in 7+ innings. If Tarik Skubal on a team means he can start games 1 and 5 of a playoff series. And for the Detroit Tigers this year, they face the Shohei Ohtani question of 2023. The Angels win a no-win situation, because there was little to no chance the Angels were going to keep Shohei Ohtani beyond 2023. And so the Angels, instead of maybe dealing Ohtani and getting back process, because looking back to 2023, seems like there were a few teams that wanted Shohei Ohtani. I heard even rumors the Rays may even offer Junior Caminero. And yet, not only did the Angels keep Shohei Ohtani, but then added a couple of guys from the White Sox. So the Angels, without a great farm system, depleted it, and then ended up trading those guys in August to potentially save money. So then Ohtani ends up staying in Orange County, but then he goes from Anaheim to Los Angeles that offseason for $700 million, and the Angels get nothing but a draft pick. So instead of the Angels getting one of the best right-handed bats in baseball, and the Angels basically lose Shohei Ohtani for not even 50 cents on the dollar, maybe 5 cents on the dollar. And frankly, that kind of a move, whether good, bad, or ugly, can set a team back 10 years. And for the Tigers, this decision, whether to keep Skubal, is the biggest decision Scott Harris is going to make as general manager or the Tigers' decision maker. Because this Tiger team, no matter what happens, I mean, this Tiger team's in a weird spot. They're, 3 or 4 games out of a playoff spot, out of the AL Central. But frankly, the American League in general this year is bad. They're a handful of teams with A winning record, B a positive run differential. And the Detroit Tigers have played much better baseball since Skubal came back. But the Tigers know that if Terry Skubal stays with them the rest of the year, there's a chance they could win the division, get in the playoffs, like what happened in 2024, when Skubal helped lead the Tigers on that great second half charge, and then not only made the playoffs, but Skubal ended up winning the first of his Cy Youngs. Now, knowing Skubal's a free agent after this year, Detroit's in a very difficult position because Skubal, when healthy, is the best pitcher in baseball. But will Detroit try and keep him for the rest of the year, or deal him and maybe not necessarily punt on this year, but maybe extend this run because there's a chance the Tigers could trade Terry Skubal to any number of teams. Maybe the Yankees. I'm not saying Skubal ends up a Yankee, but maybe the Yankees give Detroit like a World War I, someone who could go into Detroit's rotation. Maybe the Rays give the Tigers a ready-made starter. Maybe the Dodgers give Detroit like a Justin Robleski, because Detroit is for sure going to want a starting pitcher, probably a ready-made starting pitcher or close to it, and then probably an outfielder. So you look at some of these teams. Obviously, the Brewers are probably. I mean, there were going to be any number of teams that want Skubal, even as a rental. And I'm going to start with the Brewers and the Rays because I think they're the most interesting teams. I'm going to start with Milwaukee first. Milwaukee has been one of baseball's best stories the last couple of years. They somehow won the division the last couple of years. Pat Murphy won Manager of the Year in 24 and 25, and heck, he might win it again this year. Brewers have the second best record in baseball, only behind the Dodgers. They're on pace to win, 64, 99, 100 games this year. Great run differential. So obviously, we've seen what Jacob Misiorowski's done this year, Kyle Harrison. send a couple other guys. Milwaukee needs another starting pitcher because Brandon Woodruff is on the IL again. Sad but true. But Brandon Woodruff's done not just for this year, but maybe until 2028 with shoulder issues. Robleski's been kind of Milwaukee's kind of managing misses innings because he's never thrown this amount of innings. And Kyle Harrison's been on the IL, so. And frankly, the Brewers know they need another starter. They need someone who could start a game 1, game 5. They need particularly a left-handed starter going up against the Phillies and the Dodgers, throwing the Braves a good matchup. But you look at Skubal. If Skubal ends up in Milwaukee, that signifies the Brewers are not going to be passive. That signifies the Brewers are ready to make a big move just like they did in 2008. Remember, I think it was July 7, 2008. I'll talk more about this deal in a little while. Wow. The Brewer, I think it was Doug Melvin, got CC Sabathia from the Cleveland Indians for like Michael Brantley. I think Matt Laporta was the big piece of that. He was a former top draft pick out of Florida. And Sabathia ended up doing yeoman's work for the Brewers. Skubal can be that and more for Milwaukee. Now, yes, Skubal makes, $31 million? But Detroit may be able to eat some of that money. Milwaukee's got a great, not good, a great farm system led by the number 1 prospect in all of baseball, Jesus Luis Pena, Cooper Pratt, Luis Law, Chet Williams, Andrew Fisher, Braden Payne, Tyson Harder. I mean, the Brewers are stacked. And all these guys are good. I mean, Jesus made the number 1 prospect according to MLB Prospects Top 100. So, yeah, he's good. Really good. But, what would it take for the Brewers to get Skubal? Obviously, Jesus Main's not going anywhere, but would the Brewers be willing to get rid of Pena or somebody else, or maybe an outfielder? Because Milwaukee's got stacked with outfielders, and the Tigers may or may not be looking at outfielders. So would they be willing to deal an outfielder? That's going to be interesting. And also with the Brewers. This is the year potentially to go for it. Who knows what the next CBA is going to be. I think if you're Milwaukee, they've got a great farm system and the ability to do deals. Now, maybe Milwaukee decides, we'll get Freddie Peralta back. We'll get him back. But I think this is the year. Brewer fans do not want an losing another NLDS to the Phillies and Braves and or Dodgers. The Brewers haven't been to the World Series since 1982. It's one of the best fan base of all baseball. And you know what? Well, let's see. Bratwurst, cheese, and beer in a fall classic. You know what? We already saw one Southern World Series. Why can't we be, plus, Christian Yelich isn't getting any younger. I mean, I love some of these Brewer players. Jackson Sherrier, second baseman, and Bryce Terang, thank you. Plus Contreras behind the plate. I think this Brewer team needs another starter to go against LA. Otherwise, they're not going to have enough starting pitching against the top teams. And the Dodgers and top teams will beat Milwaukee. Now we get to the Rays. Much like the Brewers, Kevin Cash does yeoman's work. I mean, Tampa's leading the AL East despite a much lower payroll than the Yankees. Now, Tampa's got a good starting rotation. Shane McClanahan, Griffin Jackson's done great things in the Tampa, moving from the bullpen to the rotation. Nick Martinez, Drew Rasmussen, since been great. Great. The Tampa offense, a little top heavy, but Yandy Diaz, a hit machine. John and Aranda, and then of course Junior Caminero. But the Rays, despite not the highest payroll, think big. This is a team that tried going after Freddie Freeman, that tried going after Shohei Ohtani. And you look at it, the Rays have new owners. So guess what the new owners want? A big splash. This Tampa team's got a great phone system. They've got, Theo Gillens, one of the best prospects in all baseball. I mean, Caden Bodine, Cooper Fleming, Lee Hawkins. Plus, they just got the number 2 new pick in all. Just got the number 2 pick in the MLB draft. So this Tampa team feels like they're on the rise. But I think Tampa realizes they probably need one more piece. They could always use a bullpen on. They could use another bat. But I think Tampa may look at a starter, and why not go get Terry Skubal? Because he's a guy, as a pure rental, go start game 1, go start game 5. Because Terry Skubal might be the difference in the Rays making the World Series or watching the World Series. Because, frankly, it's probably Tampa and the Yankees in the American League right now. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen the AL this wide open. I mean, the Mariners have been a little disappointing. Nobody wants to win the AL Central. Yeah, Chicago's been an unbelievable story in the American League Central this year, but I'm not sure if the White Sox have enough starting pitching this year. But, do the Rays look at another starting pitcher, another bullpen piece? Maybe a big bat. And we'll see. And I'll talk more about the bats, or maybe the lack of bats available. And now we get to the big teams. I'm going to start first with the Atlanta Braves. Atlanta's been really good this year. But I look at the Braves rotation outside Chris Sale and think, how many guys would the Braves trust to get big, to go deep into the game? Because Chris Sale is the Cy Young contender this year. He's really, really good. But the Braves have so many other injury concerns with Spencer Strider, Strellenbach, Max Swiftshire, that as guys coming back from injury, where Atlanta probably thinks, we need another big gun. And while the Braves maybe don't have the prospect base like every other team, Cam Kennedy is a top 50 prospect in baseball. I mean, Eric Hartman, Tate Sheen. So the Braves have some really good prospects. But do the Braves look at trading one of those guys? Because Allison Topless is a very aggressive guy. We know what the Braves did in 21, and I'll talk about that trade deadline in a little bit when the Braves hit it out of the park. But I feel like the Braves need to do something because they're going to end up short of starting pitching against the Dodgers in October. And that leads me to the Dodgers. Surprise, surprise. The Dodgers have baseball's best record again. But the scary thing is the Dodgers have baseball's best record with who's not pitching. Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow, Shohei Ohtani. Those were three of LA's top starters last October. Despite this, LA's got baseball's best record. And, oh, by the way, the Dodgers have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 top 100 prospects. So, what else could the Dodgers do? I mean, LA's got more prospects than they know what to do with. I mean, they have Josue De Paula, Mike Burnett, Eduardo Quintero. Well, I mean, these guys. LA just keeps producing more and more guys. No, I mean, I don't know what Andrew Freeman's doing, but it's working. But the Tigers need outfielders. The Dodgers have young outfielders. And maybe if Shohei Ohtani can't pitch the rest of the year because of the knee, maybe the Dodgers decide, you know what? No, we want to win 3 in a row. The Big Run Machine couldn't win 3 in a row in '77. Some of the great Dodger teams couldn't win 3 in a row. And frankly, with the new rules about the collective bargaining agreement potentially coming in next year, maybe a salary cap, the Dodgers may feel, you know what? This might be our last chance at winning a world championship. Let's go for it. Another team, the Phillies. Now, the Phillies have a great starting rotation, particularly at the top, with John Sanchez, Jesus Luzardo, and Zach Wheeler. Particularly left-handed stars. But after those three, the Philly rotation's a mess. Now, Phillies don't have the greatest rotation. I mean, Gage Wood, Aiden Miller, Francisco Renneria, all top 100 prospects. But what the Phillies consider trading one or a couple of those guys for Skubal, because if Skubal is healthy, you imagine a rotation where they could have Skubal, Wheeler, Sanchez, and Luzardo. Ooh-wee. I like that. I think Don Manley would. And we know Dave Dombrowski's aggressive. The Phillies desperately need another right-handed bat. Probably need another bullpen arm or two. But may think, you know what? Let's just get another starting pitcher because starters matter in October. And maybe the last team, I'm not going to leave out the Yankees. I don't think the Yankees may be the one team that could get away without School. But if something happens, maybe Rodon or somebody went down. George Lombard's a really good, really interesting prospect at AAA. Could be up in the big league, shortstop, third base. Maybe with the Yankees, Brian Cashman is historically very conservative when it comes to trading prospects. Will that happen again this year? Or will the Yankees decide, you know what, we're going for it. We're going for a world championship because it's been over a quarter century and the Yankees it's been since 2009, that the Yankees have won the World Series. Maybe the Yankees think this is all year. The American League's down. Let's go for it. With Cole, with Schlitter, with Rodon, Fried, hopefully Stanton and Judge come back. The Yankees may think, you know what, let's get everyone healthy and make the best team win in October. And I mentioned uncertainty because until a couple weeks ago, it looked like the Boston Red Sox would for sure be sellers. And then the Red Sox won 15 in a row, or 14, 15 in a row, and now it looks like the Red Sox could be buyers. But, Now, probably no Sonny Gray and or Roland Chapman deal. Now in the bats, they're all big bats we want to see move. But then again, there's literally no chance of certain guys getting moved. The one guy I think we all want to see compete for a World Series is Mike Trout. But that's not going to happen. Then, Mike Trout doesn't want to leave Orange County, and Artie Moreno would rather not be the one who trades Mike Trout. Secondly, with Trout's contract, how many teams could A, give the Angels the requisite prospect capital, and B, be willing to take on the rest of Mike Trout's contract? Not many. I mean, maybe the Phillies, but the Phillies may have other business. And you look at Byron Buxton. Potential, he gets moved now. Byron Buxton's got a no trade clause, although hearing rumors he may or may not waive it to Philadelphia. How would he look in the middle of a pennant race? Right. So you look, Luis Ariz is definitely going to go. I mean, having a great year, not just hitting batting average wise for the Giants, but playing unbelievable second base. How would Ariz be with the Tampa Bay Rays? Tampa, I mean, last year the Blue Jays did great things with contact. This year the Rays are doing unbelievable things with contact. So how would Tampa look with Luis Ariz if they didn't make a Super Bowl move? Maybe the Texas Rangers need an infielder. Probably not the Braves, Phillies, but I don't think they would do. So what's another? Maybe the Cubs. True, but I don't think they would do that. The Yankees, but they're not moving. Jazz. What about the Mariners? Could, but I think the Mariners want to see what they have in Brendan Donovan. I mean, Taylor Ward, sacrifice a little bit of power from on bat average, on base percentages here, who knows? Hunter Goodman, I think we would love to see Hunter Goodman get moved, but I don't think the Rockies are giving up Goodman that much control. A team would have to overpay the Rockies. But interesting, the Rockies and Angels have new guys running their teams with the former Browns executives there back in baseball with the Rockies, and of course John Mozeliak, the ex-Cardinal GM, president of baseball ops there. So Zach Neto, does he become available? Does C.J. Abrams become available? Do the Nats potentially trade Foster Griffin? We'll see. I think Griffin may be going tonight or tomorrow, on Sunday. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Do the Marlins potentially trade Sandy Alcantara? And now the big one. What? Do the Padres trade Mason Miller? Obviously, we all remember last year when the Padres made a holy you-know-what blockbuster getting Mason Miller from the Athletics. And while Mason Miller has been not just one of arguably baseball's best reliever, but baseball's best reliever the last year or so. And the scary thing is 103-mile-an-hour fastball is not his best pitch. The slider is. But looking at the Padres, they are wasting Mason Miller. No, because this guy's got 3+ years of control. The Padres need to rebuild, need to get younger, more athletic, and cheaper with Machado and some of these guys not just getting older, but staying more expensive. The Padres have several long-term contracts, not just Machado or Cronenworth, but that Xander Bogaerts, Jackson Merrill. These guys are going to make a lot of money for the foreseeable future. And the Padres need to get younger, but San Diego's the Padres are the only thing in town. Pack the ballpark. Plus, the owners don't want to sell players. They may think, this all time to win. Let's see what happens. It's this year. Oh boy. Yeah. I'm very aware of that. But, Mason Miller would bring back a king's ransom. Maybe not what he did last year, but, what the Yankees potentially make a move. Would the Phillies make another move after getting the former Twin closer last year? San Diego's not going to trade Mason Miller to the Dodgers, but would the Phillies potentially trade for Mason Miller and Adam Durant and just create one super bullpen, have Mason Miller and Durant finish games? That would be something. But, with a week or so before the deadline, plenty of time to figure out. I'm not exactly sure if Mason Miller gets moved, but I think there's a possibility he gets moved. I hope we get moves. I hope we see more than middle relievers get moved. I want to see Joe Ryan get moved. I want to see guys get moved. Jerry DePona, this is your time. AJ Provo, let's go. I want to see these aggressive GMs do their thing. The Pirates. I think the Pittsburgh Pirates owe it to their fans in the making for a great season. They have Paul Skeens. Let's go for it. Go get Mason Miller. Go get somebody to close games. I think Pittsburgh can make that move. Now, will they? We'll see. Would the Blue Jays consider trading George Springer, Kevin Gausman, on Dolan Varsho? Could happen. Last year's American League champs could be a seller in a week. Now I want to talk about some big, impactful MLB trades in recent of yesteryear, and more recent. I'm a baseball savant. I try and keep up with all, not just recent trades, but trades that have impacted the game. Probably the first one I would remember, 1964. Yes, there was a trade deadline in 1964. I've got a St. Louis Cardinals shirt on. Yes, growing up a Cardinal fan. It's rare that the Cardinals and Cubs make a trade, but in 64, the Cards and Cubs actually made a trade that became one of the biggest in baseball history. The Cardinals traded Ernie Brooklyn, to the Chicago Cubs for Lou Brock. And yes, we all remember Lou Brock, 3,000 hits, Hall of Fame career. But he was not necessarily an established player. In fact, in 1963, Luke Brock was a below average hitter, and only Brockley was actually a really good pitcher for the Cardinals. He won 21 games in 1960, 18 games in 1963, and it looked like Brockley would be a huge part of the Cardinal pitching staff going forward. But the Cardinals ended up trading Broglio, who won 7 games over the rest of his career with the Cubbies. 7 games, 7 wins. And the Cardinals ended up getting a Hall of Fame career from Lou Brock. In his first 103 games as a Cardinal, he had 348, 12 home runs, stole 33 bases, 146 OPS plus, and helped lead the Cards to the World Series. 67, 68. Oh yeah, he did that. 67, 68. Oh yeah, he did the same thing. I think he was an all-star first time in 67, and then was he in 68. So Broglie won 7 games with the Cubs when Luke Brock ended up getting his 3,000 hit as a Cardinal, and of course going in the Hall of Fame in 1985. By the way, Hall of Fame this past Sunday in Cooperstown. Yeah. So a rare Cardinal Cup deal. 1979, the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pittsburgh Pirates in the 70s were really good. Lumber Company. And he won the AL East in 70. I think 5 times from 1970 to 19. The Pirates won the NL East 1970, 71, 72, 74, 75. And then, of course, Phillies won in 76 through 78. But the Pirates in 78 darn near caught the Phillies. But Pittsburgh in 79 needed another piece. He's the Wheel family Pirates. They needed another piece. He's, not just with Willie Stargell and, of course, the late Dave Parker, but they needed another piece. And the Pirates got 2-time batting champ Bill Madlock from the San Francisco Giants. And Madlock became the piece the Pirates needed. He had 328, darn near a 400 OPS, a 400 on base percentage, and really lifted the Pirate. It's the offense. I mean, Madlock ended up winning 2 more batting titles. With the Pirates in the 80s. And turned out 1979, Bill Madlock and the Pirates won a World Series, beating the Orioles, just like they did in 71. Only this time, Pittsburgh came back from down 3-1. Willie Pop Starter hits a key home run in Game 7. And we know what happened after that. That's interesting how big trades happen. 1987. I don't know if this deal was done before or after the non-waiver. I think this may have been a waiver move, but nevertheless. The Detroit Tigers are competing to win the AL East that year. They have Jack Morris, but they need another veteran starter. And so the Tigers trade John Smoltz, who had been with the been up and down. He was former top draft pick. Actually, Smoltz, I think, is from Michigan. Born and raised in Detroit. So I don't think so. Yes, Smoltz had not pitched for the Tigers, but was a top draft pick. But was drafted by the Tigers. And so the Tigers ended up dealing Smoltz and Atlanta Braves for Doyle Alexander. Now, yes, Detroit Tiger fans 40 years later think this is a terrible trade. But Doyle Alexander was exactly who the Tigers needed. A guy to help them get them into the playoffs. As they like to say in baseball, the hired gun. I think Alexander went like 9-0. And Detroit ended up winning the AL East by 1 game over the Toronto Blue Jays. And while Smoltz went on their Hall of Fame career in Atlanta, Alexander helped the Tigers make the playoffs in 1987. And sometimes that's all that matters. It's not the big deal, I mean, yeah, Detroit Tiger fans maybe wish that Smoltz would have stayed in Detroit. But you know what? Maybe the best thing did happen for Smoltz is that he got to pitch you in Atlanta, even though those were awful teams until 91 in the ATM. And speaking of the Braves, how about the Atlanta Braves getting Fred McGriff from the San Diego Padres? By the way, is it weird that the Atlanta Braves and San Francisco Giants were division rivals in 1993? But they were division rivals. And I believe the Giants had, a 7 or 8 game lead. And the Braves got Fred McGriff from the Padres. And I think there was a huge fire at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium literally the night that Fred McGriff got there. And then, literally after the fire, Fred McGriff and the Atlanta Braves took off in 1993. McGriff hit 19 home runs, and McGriff and they hit 19 but Freddie McGriff hit 19 home runs, and the Atlanta Braves just went on one of those heaters. Ended up winning 104 games, beat the San Francisco Giants by 1 game to win the National League West. Yeah, the Braves and the Giants in the National League West. Maybe that's why the Braves ended up winning so many division titles. They ended up in the NL East, but that's a story for another day. San Francisco Giant fans probably think we would have beaten the Phillies in the NLCS. Guess what turns out? Maybe you didn't have to play the Phillies, but I didn't make the schedule back then. But then, of course, McGriff ended up helping the Braves win the World Series in '95, and having a Hall of Fame career thereafterward for a few other teams. But crazy how one trade could vault the team. 1997, and the St. Louis Cardinals get Big Mac. Mark McGwire was one of baseball's most feared hitters with the Oakland Athletics. But Big Mac was nearing the end of his contract. And the A's didn't want to give Big Mac a long-term extension. So they ended up dealing him to St. Louis, where Mark McGwire ended up being, let's just say, one of baseball's biggest hitters. I mean, in barely a third of a season, Big Mac hit 24 home runs. Ended up this year with 58 home runs, and would give a preview of what would happen the next year when Big Mac set the single season all-time record, of course broken by Barry Bonds with 70. But Mark McGwire had 70 and 65, and we know what happened. I mean, Big Mac was using, but still, Mark McGwire did what he was brought into St. Louis, and then some, and with what Big Mac did in St. Louis, I mean, people remember him. I even got to meet him a couple times. So just crazy how going from Oakland to St. Louis, because everybody knows St. Louis is probably best baseball town. So 1998. So the next year, let me see if I can. Randy Johnson to the Houston Astros. Randy Johnson wasn't just one of baseball's most feared lefties. He was intimidating. And July 31st, 1998, the Houston Astros were really good that year. I think they won over 100 games. But the Astros went for it. They went all in. And just like James Wholesale, baby, they went all in. Giving up Freddie Garcia, Kolsky, and John Hamala for Randy Johnson. So 3 pretty good big names. And everybody thought this Houston team would win the World Series. Randy Johnson was going to be the final piece in the Houston winning the World Series with BGL, with Bagwell, with Billy Wagner. No, and let me tell you this, those National League teams probably got sick and tired of facing Randy Johnson's 100-mile-an-hour fastball and slider. He was unhittable in Houston. Unhittable. 10-1, won with 116 strikeouts in 84 innings. That's crazy. That's insane. And then in the playoffs, he struck out 17 guys in 14 innings. Unfortunately, the Astros gave him all of 2 runs of support. And Houston ended up losing to the San Diego Padres that year. Then, of course, Randy Johnson joined the Arizona Diamondbacks, where he won 4 consecutive NL Cy Youngs and ultimately a World Series. He was in 2001. And one of the reasons why the D-backs won that World Series is when they got Coach Schilling from the Philadelphia Phillies. Schill was a huge reason to the Phillies winning the 93 National League pennant. But while having big years, the Phillies were not a great team in 2000, and so they ended up dealing him to Arizona, a huge blockbuster. And while Schilling didn't help the D-backs win the World Series in 2000, with Schill and Johnson, the D-backs made one of baseball's best dynamic duos, a little like Koufax and Drysdale. Schilling and Johnson made mincemeat out of National League lineups. I think they struck out over 600 guys in 2001. And my memory serves me right. I think between Johnson and Schilling, the D-back, those two combined for nearly 60% of the deep Diamondback pitching outs in that World Series. And of course, ended up getting co-MVPs. Randy Johnson winning games 2, 6, and 7. And of course, Schilling Stolen 1, 4, and 7. So crazy what one deal could do. And of course, they're all the big deals. I want to talk more about the CC Sabathia trade. The Brewers had not been to the playoffs since 1982. And this was a Brewer team with Ryan Braun with Prince Field. But they needed somebody at the top of the rotation. And what CC Sabathia did was, unlike most starters, particularly stars, he basically gave everything. I mean, I don't know how CC did it, but he somehow threw like every day for the Brewers. I mean, he threw like 130 innings, 7 complete games, shutouts, and I think he started 3 or 4 times on 3 days rest. Forget about it. Even though CC knew he was going to make a lot of money. And not just what CC provided the Brewers, but what the Brewers provided to Milwaukee, because Milwaukee had not been to the playoffs in a quarter century. And this team made an incredible run at the wild card. Unfortunately, CC ran out of gas in Game 2 against the Phillies, but I think CC still a legend in Milwaukee for what he did. That wasn't the only deal. How about the crazy 2008 deadline where the Red Sox trade Manny Ramirez? It was to the Dodgers, but received Jason Bay from the Pittsburgh Pirates. This is one of the craziest blockbusters I can remember, because Manny, of course, was hugely influential in the Red Sox winning 2 World Series early in the decade. But I think Manny had pissed off everybody in Boston. And, you could argue, some people say quit, some people say whatever. But then Manny ends up in LA, and Manny turns Hollywood into Mannywood, hitting home runs left and right. Of course, now we know he was juicing, but that's another story. Meanwhile, Jason Bay ended up being a piece to the Red Sox attack. Unfortunately, ended up short to the Rays in the LCS. But just crazy what happens. I think there was another deal 2007 where the Texas Rangers traded Mark Teixeira to the Atlanta Braves, and the Rangers got several key pieces. Elvis Andrews, Matt Harrison, Jared Saltalamacchia, key cogs in the Rangers ended up making the World Series in 2010, 2011, and then later that year, 2008, the Braves traded Mark Teixeira to the Angels for Casey Kochman. And while Teixeira helped the Angels win the AL West and get to the playoffs, the pick that the Angels got a compensatory pick back from the Yankees. And you know who was the compensatory pick that year? Some guy by the name of Mike Trout. You've heard of him? It's just crazy. The Angels turned Casey Kochman into Mike Trout. And Mike Trout's still playing for the Angels. He's on my fantasy team, although I think the Angels lost today. Yeah, the Angels lost. Robbie Ray picked up the win. Good for me, but not for the Angels. Also some other big deals. 2012, maybe not the biggest trade deadline deals. But Hunter Pence and Marcus Scudero to the Giants. Marcus Scudero, I don't think I ever saw him struck out with the Giants. He literally put the ball in everything. And Hunter Pence bringing that right-handed bat, veteran leadership, shit perfect with that San Francisco clubhouse. Going to Cespedes was huge for the Mets in 2015. The Cubs ended up getting Aroldis Chapman 2016. The Kansas City Royals got Johnny Cueto and Ben Zobrist 2015. The Padres getting Juan Soto 22. Of course, Mad Max and I think Trey Turner going to LA 2021. Andrew Miller. My goodness, I almost forgot about Andrew Miller from the Yankees to the Indians. And Andrew Miller literally carrying the Indians in 2016. Carlos Beltran was just inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. I think the Cardinal fans had nightmares after what Beltran did 2004, 2006. And maybe an underrated one, Cliff Lee. The Red Sox trading Nomar Garcia-Paul for winning the most important title in sports history, arguably ending the curse of the Bambino. Obviously, we know what Nomar did. Stall, batting champ, all-star. But by 2004, Nomar was no longer himself. And the Red Sox realized they have to get better defensively. So they ended up trading Nomar to the Cubs. I think this was a crazy deal involving multiple teams, but got back Landon Cabrera. Perfect kind of player, not just offensively, but more importantly, defensively. The Red Sox had a great offense, but needed to get better defensively. They got Orlando Cabrera, Doug Mankiewicz, and Dave Roberts. I'm just thinking, didn't Dave Roberts deal like the most important base in franchise in baseball history, doing that world champion, doing that ALCS against the Bronx Bombers. And of course, I think Jaden Martinez ended up hitting like 3 or 4 home runs for the D-backs after they got him in 2017. But it's just crazy what deals can happen. And I mean, some deals may work. I mean, the Padres ended up getting Fernando Tatis Jr. Who knows what he would have done in Chicago? I mean, the Indians ended up getting multiple pieces back for like Bartolo Colon. I think the Marlins got Oget Obina from the Detroit Tigers in 2003. And then the Tigers got Doug Fister from the Mariners, I think it was 2011. Of course, David Price was involved in a couple of trade deadline moves. One would be going from the Rays to the Tigers in 2014 and the Tigers to the Blue Jays 2015. So, and then, of course, the Atlanta Braves remaking their outfield in 2021, getting Eddie Rosario, Jock Peterson, and Jorge Soler. Just thinking, thought they don't win the World Series without those guys replacing Mr. Acuna. So, what's going to happen next Monday? Because between now and next Monday, because I think the whole baseball world's interesting to see what happens, see if there be moves. So, which stalls get moved, which got to stay, which teams are aggressive, which teams aren't, and you know, uncertainty over the collective bargaining agreement. Which teams have a good week, maybe make moves or don't make moves. It's going to be one wild and uncertain trade deadline. Usually, I say crazy. I think this is certainly the most uncertain and trade deadline I can remember. So, be able to find out. Thank you for tuning in to Dylan's History Sports 2026, a trade deadline of uncertainty and MLB's biggest trade deadline deals. This is the Big D himself signing off for now.
Y'all ready? It's time to talk ball with Spunky Spectrum. Let's ride! Ow. Woke up in the morning, coffee in my hand, another season about to start. I'm the fantasy man, scouting sleepers, crunching numbers late at night, building rosters that gon' shine under them lights. From rookie watch to big revenge, I see it all, stacking points while the league's watching me ball. Best ball drafting, no waivers, just pure skill. I'm taking shots, watch the whole league getting killed. Yeah, the grind don't stop, the picks stay high. When the money's on the line, I connect the dots. We're talking fantasy football, best ball drafting deep. Spunky Spectrum spinning, put a league to sleep. 15 grand on DraftKings, cashed it like a king. Now the whole damn country know I run this thing. Yeehaw, raise them up, another W in the books. Fantasy king, got the trophies and the looks. From the podcast mic to the big check in my hand, this is Spunky Spectrum boys, the fantasy man. Best ball